Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a team that honestly felt like it came out of nowhere to absolutely dominate the Remix Cup. This team is Galarian Corsola, Primeape, and Pangoro. I saw King IV post on Twitter. He went 22-3 with a variant of this team. I had several Discord members go extremely positive, climbing multiple hundreds of points in one day, and I tried it myself and I had all positive sets. The team is technically triple weak to Pidgeot, but even so, I was able to defeat most Pidgeots that I played against. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. We see a pretty decent lead in the first match, Galarian Corsola into Primeape. While I was in Milwaukee, I was actually able to trade for a much better Galarian Corsola, but unfortunately I don't quite have the XL candy, so I'm still using the really bad IV one. In this matchup, you do actually want to throw the Nightshade on alignment because here they only have enough energy for a Rage Fist after they sneak. So you can switch in your Primeape, and even if you have a high rank Primeape like me and lose Charge Attack priority, my opponent has back-to-back moves here, but they can't throw back-to-back unless they commit their final shield. So I fire off the Rage Fist, they are going to shield. They can force my final shield back, but they're never going to be able to land a move to be able to knock me out with the Primeape. So they're forced to pivot out, and in comes Grumpig. Grumpig now at 5 Psywaves as I fire off the Rage Fist. So I'm going to throw 3 Karate Chops, wait the turn, switch, catch, and sneak onto the Galarian Corsola. We catch the Dynamic Punch that was aimed at the Primeape. We get a full Astonish farm down, and now my opponent is in a really tough spot. In comes the Primeape. I know it had a bit of residual energy, so I'm just going to throw the Nightshade and get rid of it. In the back, my opponent actually is going to have their own Galarian Corsola. They are going to get the farm down, but I can send in Pangoro. Pangoro, easily the MVP of this team, and my opponent is going to resign the match. We move to game number 2, Galarian Corsola against Tinkaton. This is a great matchup for the Galarian Corsola, as unless the Tinkaton is running Heavy Slam, then Corsola has a very dominant Zero Shield win, and that's just due to pacing. Because my opponent gets to fire off the first Play Rough, that does quite a lot of damage, but because Play Rough is 7 to the first and 7 to the second, here they will get outpaced, and unless they go down a shield, which I would be very okay with, then they're just going to lose their whole Tinkaton. So down goes Tinkaton, they send in Spiritomb, I bring in the Primeape, and my opponent is going to send in Grumpig, and at this point, this game is already over. I just don't have to ever shield the Primeape here. I can just let this go because Pangoro will be able to sweep this game. So I let it go. They actually undercharged the Dynamic Punch, hoping that it would put it in 1 Psywave range. But realistically, whether they did that or not, there just wasn't a way for my opponent to win this game because Spiritomb gets absolutely destroyed by Pangoro. So we get to send in Pangoro and the opponent will resign the match. Bad lead in the next match, leading into a Guzzlord. My opponent is going to stay in with the Guzzlord. I farm up to the close combat, and I will bait with the Rage Fist. The Rage Fist bait is going to be shielded. Opponent now going to send in a Shadow Dust Noir, and these Astonishes will absolutely shred through the Primeape. Primeape Rage Fist is going to connect. That's big damage. Unfortunately, I'm unable to make it to my next Rage Fist, but I've already applied so much pressure to my opponent. I send in the Corsola because I know that I can survive the Shadow Punch. It's Diggersby in the back, and now I can just win the game with Pangoro. I'm going straight for the close combat here. I'm expecting my opponent to no-shield here. Close combat will not knock out. There's the switch into Guzzlord, and because I close combated, I'm now taking extra damage from the Dragon Tails. I will need a bait to win this game. My opponent will end up shielding. I get to the close combat, and we're going to be able to take this win. As Pangoro, again, just completely running away with endgames. We still have both shields remaining, despite leading into a terrible lead. Looking for the 5-0, and it's a bad lead again, leading into Diggersby. There's the Primeape safe switch. Opponent is going to answer with Shadow Pidgeot. Here, I am going to throw the Rage Fist, because if I can barely hang on here and survive the Gust, I will have a boosted close combat, but unfortunately, I'm not quite able to get that move. I send in the Corsola, and this is a Pokemon that the team is triple weak to. However, Pidgeot is typically never going to be able to 1v3, so in a lot of circumstances, you can actually beat Pidgeot. I'm able to get the Power Gem. I'm really hoping that they just let the Pidgeot go, but my opponent is going to invest in the Pidgeot, recognizing the line that I'm running. Pidgeot is forced to throw. I have 2 shields. I have a Pangoro. Let's see if we can sweep this endgame. So now I get to send in Pangoro. Opponent will immediately fire off the Air Cutter. I am pretty close to a Night Slash here. I could throw the Night Slash and not have that Gust register, but I decide that I want a little bit of residual energy, so I do actually take that fast move instead. So now I have a little bit of extra energy. Back in comes the Diggersby. Diggersby will be firing off energy. I'm going to commit the shield. I have to watch for a potential switch out here. I need the close combat to land on the Diggersby. Opponent switches into Dust Noir. We avoid the catch, and now I should just be winning this game. Night Slash will be enough to 2-hit KO. I fire off a second Night Slash, and I should be one off of the close combat. So even though we had some pretty terrible leads for Galarian Corsola, the first set with the team is going to be a 5-0 set as Pangoro absolutely destroys Diggersby. We pick up a great lead in the next match, Galarian Corsola into Toxipex. Opponent save switches into Greninja, and this is actually an uncomfortable save switch for this team to see. And this is entirely due to the fact that Greninja's Hydro Cannon hits extremely hard on the Glassy fighters. So being down an entire Water Shuriken because I threw the Astonish makes this matchup a lot more difficult than it should be. This is a team that you're going to see very, very frequently, or at least I saw constantly throughout my sets. That is Toxipex, Greninja as the safe switch, and Diggersby as the closer. So a team that on paper, this team should hard counter. But if the Greninja is able to generate an advantage in the mid game, then Diggersby can be quite scary in the end game. So I will fire off another close combat, trying to limit Toxipex farm. I send in the Corsola. It is going to be the Diggersby in the back. Diggersby, I'm going to farm up against it to a close combat, but I will go for a Night Slash bait. The Night Slash bait is going to be shielded. Opponent could not risk a close combat landing. I'm going to shield here. I do survive a Scorching Sands anyway, but to me it's important to force my opponent to throw another Scorching Sands. And now I will go for a second bait. The fact that I'm down a shield, I'm having to play very risky with these baits. I will be able to survive my opponent's move. I have to predict the snipe. So I'm going to queue up the switch into Corsola. They send in the Toxipex, trying to go for a snipe, but we don't let that happen. The close combat is banked, which means this game is going to be a win. My game plan now is very, very simple. I have the close combat banked on the Pangoro, so all I have to do is just Astonish down and then just fire off Power Gems. The Power Gem is not meaningful damage into the Diggersby. My opponent does get denied here, but it does not materially affect the outcome of this game because they're already in close combat range. These Power Gems right here are literally just to burn the switch clock. So then I can switch into the Pangoro, fire off the close combat, and we're going to be able to take the win. But that team on paper, we should hard counter, but the Greninja generating an advantage mid-game, I think I can play that a lot better. Great lead, Galarian Corsola into Skeletor. Opponent save switches into Primeape, and it's actually the Shadow Primeape. Shadow Primeape is quite a bit scarier. I stay in with the Corsola. I was hoping they would throw a Rage Fist first, so then I could tank it, grab a shield, and then mirror with my own Primeape, but instead, they are going to overfarm a massive amount of energy, and now they're at back-to-back moves. Honestly, I think they've played this very well. They've made it so I couldn't ever really switch in my own Primeape safely, and I'm forced to go down 2 shields. This feels terrible. I really don't like being at a shield deficit considering the Glassy fighters that I have in the back. I'm pivoting no matter what they bring in. It's a Furret, and this game should just be a win. I just farm up, watching for the switch, knowing that my opponent will have to switch at some point. This Skeletor is about to get completely destroyed by Rage Fist. I'm so far ahead in energy that they can't even shield this, because if they shield this, I'm just outpacing to a third Rage Fist. So they're forced to fully sacrifice it, and in comes the Furret, and I'm just in a completely winning spot. They Trailblaze here. Trailblaze does do less damage than a Swift, but they're looking to try and sweep with the Furret if at all possible. Close combat is going to be shielded, but I have a Power Gem on Corsola. So in this game, despite the fact that Pangoro's easily been the MVP, I won't even need it. We're able to take the win just with the Corsola Primeape core. We move to the next game, Corsola into Toxipex, and watch this. I'm going to instantly switch into the Primeape knowing that the Greninja safe swap is coming. I had seen this team a few times, so now this is the adjustment that I make. My opponent does actually end up shielding the Rage Fist, and that does work out pretty nicely for me, as now I will shield. They do go for the Night Slash, and this is only another Night Slash. If it's 3, then 2, 5 total Water Shurikens, then it cannot be a Hydro Cannon. I'm going to get a huge farm down now, and I should be able to double close combat into that Toxipex. So Toxipex, now not going to get nearly as much farm as it got in the previous game, and I feel overall a lot better with this play pattern. Obviously, it's an incredibly aggressive play to blind switch a Primeape into a Toxipex, because if they stay in, I just lose. But now, I'm just completely winning because of that play pattern. Diggersby will fire off energy. I can tank whatever they throw. It's not going to matter. And then I just farm up to the back-to-back close combats. Opponent is going to realize, unfortunately, with the way I played that game, there's just no way for them to win. Galarian Corsola into Shadow Typhlosion. Corsola is going to do great into Typhlosion. Typhlosion has to throw on alignment here if they want to put the first shield pressure of the match. They decide against it, And these Astonishes are doing so much damage that I am very, very happy with just fully sacrificing the Corsola here. Corsola is the bulk of the team. It's supposed to be the damage sponge. And now I'm going to send in Pangoro. They throw instantly, and I will immediately commit a shield. They do bait with a Thunder Punch. And now they're going to send out a Hex Dust Noir. Dust Noir, of course, with Hex, incredibly spammy. I fire off the Night Slash. They're going to no shield opponent. Actually ends up waiting a turn there to see if I caught. And in doing so, they give me a free Karate Chop. And that actually means that I can double up here now. So my opponent tried to be cautious, making sure the Dynamic Punch landed on its intended target, but in doing so, that means that they actually weren't able to outpace the Pangoro, and that gives me a really big advantage. In the back, they have Corviknight, and Corviknight, considering I have shields down, is actually quite scary. I am going to be firing off the close combat. They're going to shield that. They catch onto the Typhlosion, and I've lost the game. That is really tough, as the close combat does knock out, and Corviknight has enough energy that they're going to get to a move versus the Primeape. Primeape, I have a really high rank, but it's not surviving a super effective Sky Attack, and they're going to get to outpace the Pangoro as well. So a terrific catch from my opponent. That's a game that realistically, once I went down shields, I think I just lose anyway, but that catch just really put me in a tough spot. We see a pretty familiar lead Corsola into Primeape. We've seen this play out, I believe it was in game number 1 of the video, and it works out pretty nicely for the Corsola. Corsola just tanks the Rage Fist, gets to fire off the Nightshade on alignment, and whether they shield or not, I'm just going to be pivoting into the Primeape, although they should almost always shield. So now I get to farm up a lot of energy. Opponent sends out a Dust Noir. Dust Noir going to take huge damage from this Primeape. Primeape gets to fire off the Rage Fist. Dust Noir gets absolutely rocked. I'm already at Rage Fist number 2, so if they want this energy, they're forced to burn their final shield, and they will do just that. They're forced to throw energy because I would actually survive the next fast attack there. Shadow Punch will pick up the KO, and now I can send in the Corsola. I'm fully sacrificing the Corsola. If we're winning this game, we're winning it because we get a Pangoro sweep. Back in comes the Primeape. This energy is uncomfortable. It's probably going to be a Rage Fist, but I feel like I have to respect it, and I end up losing the charge attack priority tie. This is only going to be another Rage Fist, but it's the +1 Rage Fist, so I definitely would have been better off if I no-shielded the first and called that it was going to be the bait, but to me it felt too risky at the time. Night Slash is going to pick up the knockout, and we'll have to see what is that final Pokemon. They're going to send back in the Dust Noir. Dust Noir gets farmed down. In the back, it's Jellicent, but it's a Bubble Jellicent, and I'm actually going to lose because I'm going to get bubbled down unless I boost, but I don't boost, and I just can't win this game. Oh my goodness, the Bubble Jellicent. If it was Hex, Hex would do such little damage that it would have actually been fine because I still had a shield, but the Bubble Jellicent tech means that I will lose the match. All right, we see Corsola into Shadow Pidgeot, and this is a matchup that on paper should beat our entire team, but let's see how the overload strategy can work in real time. So I'm able to grab an early shield with Power Gem, and I'm always going to be calling the bait here because they have to Brave Bird if they want to pick up the knockout. They will go for the Brave Bird. In comes Primeape. Opponent now going to pivot into Skeledirge, but Skeledirge is immediately going to be hit with the Rage Fist, and they're behind on energy, which means Skeledirge can't even get a move without Primeape getting to a second Rage Fist. And this will force their final shield, and with shields down, I have high confidence in Pangoro. They can't farm down either because of that lightning fast 4 pacing. They're going to go for the Torch Song, continuing to ramp up their attack. I send in the Pangoro. Pangoro is going to be shielding, and then I will look to go for 4 and the Night Slash, so the second Incinerate does not register. There's a switch into the Shadow Pidgeot, and just like that, in a split second, I go from 2 shields remaining to 0. They get the Air Cutter boost. I'm forced to fire off this Night Slash. I need it to knock out. Night Slash does pick up the KO, so down goes Pidgeot. It's all going to come down to what do they have in the back. They reset the buff that they had on the Skeledirge. It's going to be Swampert. We win the charge attack priority tie with the Pangoro. Close combat picks up the 1-hit KO. In comes Skeledirge, and even at -2, we can survive that Incinerate. Pangoro with the 1v3 sweep and the Bad Manners boost to end it. Hopping to the final match, Corsola into Toxipex. At this point, I'm just always safe switching instantly into that Primeape. At some point, I'm going to get punished by this play. A Toxipex is going to stay in, and I'm just going to have atrocious alignment. But until that day happens, I'm going to keep doing this play, because this play ended up working out really nicely for me. Here they Hydro Cannon, and that means that I can just farm down. I do exit with quite a lot of HP, and that's actually going to be very valuable because I'm going to go for a second Rage Fist, and then I will fire off the close combat on charge attack priority tie to their Brine. They don't end up falling for it, but now they're in a really bad position because this next close combat is going to knock out. They're forced to throw energy, and I am expecting that they're going to be pivoting out here into the Diggersby, so I'm just going to bring in Pangoro. Oh, that is not a Diggersby. That's actually going to be a Bombardier. Bombardier, Sucker Punch, obviously going to be very heavily resisted. They call the Night Slash bait, but because Bombardier is so glassy, that's still very okay. So I'm going to be shielding up the fly. These Karate Chops are doing so much damage that at this point, there kind of isn't a way for me to lose this game. What I'm going to do is fire off the final Night Slash. They should now be at the fly with the Sucker Punch that snuck, and I'm just going to switch in Corsola, because these things don't run payback. They run fly and they run rock tomb. I can survive any one of those moves, and now I basically have a full health Pangoro, so there just isn't a way for them to win. I get the farm down of Bombardier, and my opponent will resign the match. I am aware of the fact that this team will struggle if you run into that double charm team, but outside of that, this team felt extremely strong. Pangoro is just an incredibly good sweeper. Primeape is so versatile as a safe switch, as even in its bad matchups like against a Shadow Pidgeot, the threat of a close combat is so severe that opponents are still forced to go down shields. So I think this is a really powerful climbing team in these final days of the Remix Cup, because man, everyone who's used it so far, and the King version, by the way, I did want to mention, was Shadow Dusclops as the lead, but I did end up deciding to use Corsola, and Corsola, I really appreciated the bulk of the Corsola. So overall, if you don't have Corsola, that could be a decent substitution. If you do end up trying out the team, let me know how the team does work out for you. So far, those who have tried it have had really positive results. And that's honestly what I'm hoping to see, is towards the end of this rotation here with the Remix Cup rotating out soon, people being able to make those last second elo climbs before the leagues do switch. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.